Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I'm your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Kirk Trammel, who is the founder and lead dog of Barks and Rec. Kirk, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, would you like to just kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and then the business that you're in?
Kind of a short summary of our entrepreneurial journey. We've started a few businesses going back to even during college. Went through law school, practiced law for a couple years, went in house with my biggest client, and that turned into helping opening up regions throughout the country and kind of an entrepreneurial mindset there. And that turned into kind of running a few businesses over the course of the year. We recently, 3 years ago, started Barks and Rec. We've got three locations now and growing, and we're just about to finish our fourth and looking to open that April 1st. So a lot of interesting stuff going on.
So, for the audience, what is Barks and Rec, right?
Yeah, so Barks and Rec is a daycare, boarding, and grooming facility. So our kind of go-to is we have large outdoor areas with artificial turf and pools and a lot of outdoor playtime. So people know us as the place for daycare and boarding where your dog's going to get a ton of outdoor exercise, really kind of wear themselves out by playing with the groups of other dogs and go home well rested and allow them to take naps as soon as they get home, sometimes through the night. So and then we also do grooming and daycare and grooming and some retail as well.
Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. This business is a little bit different than a lot of the other businesses that you've started up, it looks like in the past. What was the spark that inspired you to start this business?
Yeah, so we were running a company that did franchise build outs. So we would contract with the franchisor, and when they sold a new franchise location, they would contact us, put us in contact with the franchisee, and we would do the tenant improvement project, building out their space. And so we did that for almost 10 years. The last several years, we started getting a lot more pet industry focused franchisors as clients. And by the nature of our business, people pretty much open their books to us and tell us all of their goals and aspirations and how the franchise is going for them. And we really started hearing some good things about particularly the pet daycare, boarding, and grooming side of the business. So we kind of looked around, looked at who we were working with, and said, they either like us or we're as good as them or better. So let's look at maybe trying to do this for ourselves. So we started our first Barks and Rec 3 years ago.
Well, that's kind of cool. So really a business born out of opportunity and seeing what was happening in the marketplace.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So talk to us a little bit about, what does it take to get a business like this up and going, right? Because obviously you need a location, right? But talk to us a little bit about, that first year, what do you got to do to kind of get a business like this up and going?
Well, I mean, there's two choices. You can start from scratch, or you can purchase an ongoing concern. So we made the decision to purchase a business. So our first two were founders that, for whatever reason, were looking to exit the business, and we use that as a launching point to basically buy and build, to be the model. So we bought our first two locations in the North Loop in Minneapolis and in Lakeville, and then one we doubled the revenue in short order within about 6 months, and the other one tripled it. So that's was kind of a skill set that we had that we could bring to the business. And then our third one in Hastings, it was more of a startup because we bolted on to a large grooming operation, and then we added daycare and boarding to it. So it was more of a startup on the boarding and daycare side, and that's a lot more work. I mean, to be honest, to start from scratch from zero clients to try to build that client base. So we're still working at that. It's going well, but it's a slower build than we found to buy and build from an existing starting point.
So site location, let's talk a little bit about that, right? Because, obviously the first two were established, right? You bought those, but
Yeah.
what was it about Hastings that you felt that there was a need for this type of business there?
Yeah, so a few things. So we're looking for opportunities that have that large outdoor play area. It's kind of what we're known for. People bring their dogs to us. Really, we get a lot of active dogs, hunting dogs, dogs that younger puppies that need a lot of exercise. So we need a place that's got not only a nice indoor space, but a large outdoor area where we can have those dogs run off their energy. So that sounds simple, but that's harder in practice to find. Zoning's also an issue. That depending on your municipality, they're only going to allow a dog daycare boarding area in certain areas. Those tend to be industrial parks, which is an indoor area and a parking lot. So a lot of the market research is driven around where can we find a suitable building plus the outdoor space.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna maybe change the subject a little bit and talk about, what are some of the things that you guys are doing to stay innovative in this space, right? Because as you said, you'd been working with folks in this space, so it was an emerging space, but what are some of the things that you're doing to be innovative in this space?
Yeah, and I think a couple things. One is having the patience and the stick to itiveness to find that large outdoor area. That's a big separator. If you look at most dog daycare and boarding, a lot of the large national franchised operations, they are in those industrial parks. And if they have an outdoor area, it's kind of just like a potty pod where dogs can go outside and do their business. So that stick to itiveness in itself, finding that outdoor area is a differentiator for us. I think the other thing is there's two things we always tell our staff, and we pride ourselves on our as owners to always say yes. If a customer asks, "Can you do so and so?" Within reason, obviously, right? But 95% of the time, always say yes. So it leads us into conversations around, okay, one customer asked that of us. Maybe there's 10, maybe there's 20 of our customers who would do that. So then we can do add-on services that while we have the dogs on site with us, they might want to add, nail trims or ear cleaning or teeth cleaning is a newer big one to add to the service set. So, and things like, can I drop off early? Can I stay late? We have a dog with us now that's been with us 3 weeks at our house. A customer who took a work assignment that took her away for a month. So can you? I don't want to leave my dog for in daycare. Can you just take her home with you with your dog? So we say yes. We do that, and it kind of helps us, I think, develop those bonds with our customer. The other thing I think is we really try to listen. And we always talk with our staff and conversations. Is to listen, listen, listen. So many people in conversation, wait till it's their turn and then talk, and they forget the listen part. So when we listen to our customers, it really helps us kind of direct the service set that we provide in return.
I would think, doing those types of things really help with client retention, which I would
Absolutely.
expect is super important in your type of business.
Yeah, yeah. It's a large part when you're starting a business, it's landing the clients and then retaining them. And so the retention, you're right, is key. So to be able to do those types of things, you get loyal fans, they become friends, they tell their friends, and it kind of builds on itself from there.
Yep, and then it builds on that word of mouth marketing and that referral marketing, right? And
Right.
good, cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to share that because that's really good. So starting up this type of business, you mentioned that getting a location, starting it up from scratch was a little bit harder, but talk a little bit about what that work schedule, life balance is when you're starting up a location from scratch, essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of like the work-life balance equation. I mean, the way we look at it, I like to work. I mean, I likes to work, so we kind of look at it as it's work life. Sometimes the work is predominant, sometimes life over work. So it's really just kind of one big lifestyle of being a business owner. We take calls at 9, 10 at night. And then sometimes we'll let people know, hey, we're gone for the weekend, so there's other people you can contact in our absence. So it is kind of it can be an around the clock type of thing in our business because we have overnight boarders and people sometimes are going to want to reach out late at night, especially when they're traveling in different time zones and things like that as well. So probably not the best person to ask about work-life balance if you want to say, can I really prioritize my life and separate it from work? We kind of view it as it's kind of like all one big ball of wax.
Yeah, I appreciate you keeping it real, right? For the business owner, work and life are intertwined like you wouldn't believe. But it
Right.
sounds like you've come up with a way where, you can set some boundaries when you need to. In
Yeah, absolutely. And either in-person conversations or even automated email answers or even on our voicemail message, contact so and so, for after hour service, and that kind of helps.
Okay. Shifting gears here, let's talk a little bit about future plans and goals that you have for your business. Would you offer us a glimpse into those?
Yeah, so we're at three locations. Our second location, Lakeville, um, would need an upgrade here within the next year or so. So Hastings and now the New North Loop location are really what we consider, our model going forward. It's large indoor spaces. They're both 10,000 plus square feet inside, plus 10,000 square foot feet plus outside, all fully built out to support both boarding and the play aspect of it. Um, our Lakeville location is primarily boarding. There's not a lot of room for daycare. We bought that. It's an excellent boarding facility and people love it, but it's kind of limited to that one side of the business. So we'll eventually, probably within the next year or so, we'll update that one to the standard of both Hastings and the North Loop. And then we're looking for other opportunities. Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the South Metro is kind of our geographic area that we're looking for. So I would think we'd probably get to five locations comfortably and then make a decision. What do we want to do there? Do we want to keep growing? Do we just want to really operate those well, and kind of take it from there?
So I'm going to ask a question about franchising because you'd mentioned you've worked with franchises to help it build out franchises. Is that prospectively an option for this type of business in the future?
We get asked that a lot because we know a lot of people in franchising. Um, I think for us, we wouldn't want to be involved in the process, just because our niche was helping franchisors grow from 5 to 10 locations to 100. 100 locations is kind of the magic number in franchising, um, and you really make about the same living, the same amount of money between 5 and 10 locations until you get to 100. And I've kind of seen what it takes to go from that 5 to 10 to 100, and that's a good 5 to 10 year process to really make that happen. It's not something that we'd be particularly interested in doing ourselves. If a partner came in, there's a lot of private equity money involved in franchising. If a partner came in and said, "Excuse me, we'll finance it. You guys can play a part, but we've got a team that can help." We potentially could consider that, but we're really looking at kind of operating on our own for now and see how far we can take it.
I really appreciate the insights you just offered to the audience about that concept of franchising and some of the goals there and some of how long it takes and then kind of those numbers, high level numbers to
Yeah.
be successful. So that's really insightful. And so, obviously for people that might be thinking about that, this is just a great little quick education moment on franchising. So thank you.
Yeah. Just to add to that too, it is a different skill set. As you're operating your own, you're 5 to 10, you're an operator, you're with the dogs, you're with the customers, and then as soon as you start saying I'm a franchisor, now you need to develop the skill set of I can recruit people who want to get into their own business, I can train them, I can support them, I can build a staff that does those things, which are very different from showing up and making the dogs happy every day.
Yeah, yeah, definitely indeed. So good. So, knowing that this show is going to be targeted towards people that are going to be in their first few years of business, do you have any final thoughts or words of advice you'd like to share with our audience today?
I think for a couple things. One is I consider the buy and build model. A lot of people talk about I want to get into business and I'm going to start from scratch. I've got an idea that's so unique that I need to start it on my own. We'd advise to look at existing businesses that for whatever reason an owner might be looking at an exit. And it does a couple things. One, you've got a built-in client base, and building that initial from zero to break even client base is a lot of work. So somebody else has done that work for you. And then the other thing is it's much easier to finance purchasing a business than it is a startup. If you've got good financials on a business you're buying and you've got decent personal credit, you can finance that pretty easily. Whereas a startup, the financing resources are pretty limited. So that's one that I'd recommend. The other one I think is having that always say yes mindset. If you're open to listen to people's ideas and suggestions and requests and react to them, I think that can take you pretty far into places that a lot of places don't go.
Yeah, and I think that's super critical for anybody in a service type business, right? Where you're providing a service, a value add service, to make sure that you are listening to the clients and the customers and delivering what they're expecting as a service. So
Right, exactly.
that's great. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today, Kirk.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, John. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.